Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready to take a bite out of the competition? Are you looking for ideas to make your business better? Welcome to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. At the core of every successful business, you'll find people making a difference. And with each episode of the Core Business Show, we talk with those people, examine those ideas, and explore the strategies that make them special. Now, the host of the Core Business Show, Tim Jacquet.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. Today, I have the pleasure of having Donna Marie Thompson. She is the goal goddess. She's an entrepreneur, and she actually helps businesses to manage to set their goals. If you'd like to speak with her, please give us a call at 347-324-3460, 347-324-3460. Or you can pose a question in the chat room. I'm going to read it on the air. Well, Donna, welcome to the program.
Well, Tim, thank you so much. It's great to be here with you.
I guess to begin with, our audience really like to hear personal stories of our guests. Tell us about yourself and where you're from and how did you get started.
Well, right now, I was born in Pittsburgh, but I've lived in Washington, D.C. almost my whole life. And I had a career. I started out as a pharmacist, but I didn't like that so well. And it went off being a consultant. And I worked through Booz Allen and then Price Waterhouse. I became a director. And then I work in all sorts of things in international banking. And as my career moved forward, I really wanted to start a small business. And so that's where my passion is now. And academically, I have a BS, MBA, CPA, and a PhD in international business. So it really has helped me solidify all the theory and put it to practice. So I'm having a really good time now trying to take all those skills and put them into proper perspectives for small business.
Wow. You have an armful.
Letters, yeah.
Man,
it's the alphabet.
Which was that? There you go. Sometimes you need all of it. You can handle all types of situations.
Well, you never know what you're going to need, right? You never know.
Especially in D.C. You know, I used to stay there with the Catholic youth, so I know how things are in D.C. Great nation. We were talking about the country before we went on the air, and again, it's the best country in the world. I guess, talking about this is the best country in the world, and is entrepreneur friendly. I mean, there's no other economy on the face of this planet that you can start with nothing and you can be something overnight. You can be a billionaire overnight. You just have to work hard enough. You're going to have some bumps and bruises on the way, but you can be anything you want to be in this particular country. Taking that into account, to be an entrepreneur, what advice do you have to entrepreneurs today? What things they need to pull themselves up and be prepared for?
Well, I guess there's different sets of advice for where you are. If you're contemplating starting a business, that you really find out that there's a business there. Many of the people that I meet, coaches, authors, all sorts of people with aspirational business ideas say, oh, this is my idea to do something. And they'll find out after a year or two that there's no market there. So for aspirational business people, the first thing I do is say, stop and test. What do people respect you for? What do people come to you for? And that's where you want to think if that's where your business is. And then for businesses that are already ongoing, really taking a look at what your customers are buying and why. And one of the most successful business strategies is to wrap additional products around what you're already selling, where you go to your customer and say, what else do you buy from other people? And pull all of that into your business, into your profit chain, if it aligns with your capabilities. So we're always looking to meet market needs rather than trying to do what we want to do.
Wow. Okay. So if we say that and look at all three of those particular things, how can you discern if you are a startup, how can you find out if there's a market need for that?
Well, one of the things that people do if you're leaving corporate, depending on where you are in life, if you're leaving corporate, you have a skill set, you've got contacts. And there's a lot of IT professionals, there's a lot of business strategy people that really easily transition out, and they continue to do exactly what they've done, just under a different organizational framework. And that's probably the most common business model, where you're an accountant in a firm, and then all of a sudden you've got your own accounting practice. So it's this really natural flow, and you've already got a reputation. So that's an essential piece to instant money. And those people don't need a lot of money. They're not truly a startup. because they can actually even transition business with them. Now, other people starting where you have zero customers, zero, you need to begin to do surveys and approach people within the industry that you're thinking. A lot of people get started with subcontract. So if you're an accountant and you don't want to start your own accounting firm, you could approach another firm and say, I've got services. Can you market with me? You can joint market that way. So there's all sorts of ways. And just starting at pure green field, it's very difficult. It could take 12 to 18 months to get the engine going. But I always recommend doing surveys and market research. Just even if you do them on foot, you can walk around to local businesses and say, how do your needs align with what? And I'm the goal getter, so I could actually go to different businesses right here in DC and say, what happens, when you set your goals? When do you meet your goals? When don't you meet your goals? And that's very valuable research. And the 95% of small businesses that go out of business, I think that's the strategic flaw. They never did contact, dozens and hundreds of potential prospects to see what do they really need.
So taking that into account, and you take all of this information and you find the market you want to be in, you find a profession you want to be in, and you take it from there. How do you manage all of that? And, we talk about business plan, but also you mentioned goals. How do they set their goals?
Well, there's all sorts of levels of goals, and I kind of break it down into 4 levels, like visionary goals. If you start a business, you say, 10 years from now, I want to be, doing this type of customers. So I might start out with small business, but I want to break into, S&P 100 or something. So a really big visionary goal. And then you can also do aspirational goals, something that is really, like being an Olympian or something would be an aspirational goal that you really stretch. And it's like the elite of the elite. And those goals, we might not reach them, but they provide a guiding path, like a beam that we can follow. And as long as we're going on that beam, we're moving closer. There's strategic goals for our businesses, like which markets, which customers, which services. And then there's tactical goals. After we have that strategy in place, how do I tweak the products? How do I price the products? How do I deliver the products, as well as customer service, so that my tactical goals fulfill my strategic goals? It all layers, and when it works together, it's just absolutely amazing.
Wow. So when you talk about the visionary, you talk about the aspirational and the strategic and the tactical goals. When you mention about making the goals as high as you can, everybody would like to be a Fortune 500 company, but it has to move in a certain way. How can you program your mind to say, I want to be there and I have the potential of being there, but we have all these distractions. People are going to distract you. People are going to discourage you. How to get on that path if you want to be that a Fortune 500 company?
Well, one of the key pieces is building phenomenal networks. It's very difficult if you're a solopreneur sitting there in your sweatpants, running your small business out of your den to aspire to be a Fortune 100. But it is possible, and it's possible through networking and providing a strategic service that you could link on. I mean, if you look at your email, all that comes into my email anymore is these joint ventures. Eben Pagan and Robert Anthony and Dr. Rubino and all these people have linked up with hundreds of other people that joint sell, cross sell. And so what you might want to do, rather than you trying to incubate a Fortune 500 company, that what you do is really begin to build a base and cross sell, cross promote. And people have been phenomenally successful with that. So the model for 2012 and beyond is don't do it alone. It's going to take forever to build your list. Why not use someone else's list? It might take forever to build a really deep technical product. Why not work with someone else and add a product, the front end or the back end, or add a service or add training or something wrapped around that? And so you can achieve great meteoric revenue rises in these bundles, in these JV bundles. And my email's just filled with it, the Dan Kennedys and all of these people that have done amazing work by just teaming up with Brian Tracy. And so you hang on to the leaders that are in your area. And if you share the same message, and if you provide a little bit of differentiation about how you can complement them, you can work your way into these advanced networks and propel yourself, up 5-10 levels in an amazingly short amount of time.
Wow. So when you talk about that, and and you pull all these things in perspective, and networking, I guess, is proven case. You look at Facebook, it's their fortune is all about networking. They might not know all these people, but they put all these people together, and they have a huge networking service. And same thing with LinkedIn when they went public last year. It's amazing that you mentioned people today are your resources, and you have to utilize them. How can a person who's starting up, I mean, if you're in the corporate world, it's a lot easier because you're dealing with people on a regular basis. You have contacts. But however, if you take the person who's not at that C level, or who's really down the line, maybe the factory worker who has a good technical idea, or who's the sales account person who has something in one end, but they don't have the full length of accounts that they can call on. What advice do you give to that person who's started up, don't have a lot of resources, who may be selling a service, who may be selling a product? Where can they go to try to team up with people?
Well, I would think if there are any trade shows or networking groups locally, there's different types of products. Some of them are only good locally, and many others are geographically independent. So I guess it matters based on those distinctions. But if it's a local product, there's all sorts of local networking events. We've got the Small Business Administration here. They've got all sorts of guides and lists and directories of manufacturers and resources like that. But I would research the market, especially if you've got a complementary product or service. Who would really benefit from that product? And then figure out who is actually serving that customer in some other way. So you could approach either the direct end customer, or you could approach the other vendor and go in as a complement. Now, you have to be careful. If you're a head-to-head competitor, they'll squash you like a bug. But if you have something that complements there, or some service twist, that maybe you deliver service after the sale, or something special that would enhance their product offering, you'll be a welcome partner, and it's something they won't have to mess with. So you prove yourself with a technical idea that the end customer wants, and you could go approach it two ways, either through that end customer or through another vendor.
Wow. We're going to take a break real quick. I'm talking with Donna Marie Thompson. She's the Goal Goddess for entrepreneurs. So we'll take a break real quick and be back, and we can go ahead and continue with the show.
You're listening to the Core Business Show, sponsored by Apple Capital Group. Apple Capital Group in Jacksonville, Florida, is a commercial lender that specializes in asset-based loans, equipment leasing and financing, invoice financing, commercial real estate loans, and asset-based financing in the U.S. and Canada. Apple Capital Group is a direct lender that lends on their private equity investment portfolio. 90% of most loans are decided within 2 hours, and vendor funding within 24 hours after documents are completed, with a one-page application. No slow no's, just a quick decision and a fast yes. To get more information about lending from Apple Capital Group, call 866-611-7457. That's 866-611-7457 to speak with one of our loan specialists. Or visit us right now at applecapitalgroup.com. Welcome back to the Core. Once again, here's Tim Jacquet.
Okay, I'm back with Donna Marie Thompson. We're talking about goal setting. So the mic just went off for a second, but they get edited. I guess, you're in the country's capital, Washington, D.C., and, for a new person coming up and trying to network, you have different personalities. Some people are really outgoing, can talk a person to death. Other people who are a little bit more reserved and shy. What advice do you normally have to that person who's shy and reserved, and how should they approach a networking event? Because it's kind of intimidating.
It's intimidating for 90% of people. So, if you feel queasy, you're not alone, because most people in the room are queasy. For all people, one of the best approaches for networking is to find out about other people. So rather than you going and saying, I'm a real estate attorney and I'm, blah, 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 and their eyes glaze over, that we actually approach people in networking events and ask them what they're doing, or what's the one thing they've done this week that really made a difference in their business, or what's their one challenge that, what's the biggest challenge they're facing. And if you begin to talk to other people about their business, when you see an opening, you can begin to enter aspects of your business. So rather than putting all that pressure on you to just, shine as what you're delivering, you don't even know it's like almost a fertile field. You let them talk about what their problems are, and then you think about how your business might fit them. Now, 70% of the time there's no fit, but you know that person now, and that person then begins to like you a little bit because you've had a conversation. And as you'll find is that you'll begin to have people that you can refer to help them, and you start building networks that way. But if you talk about the other person, a lot of the fears disappear. The other technique I use is that you promise yourself that you're going to meet like 5 people. And so you don't grab onto one person who feels safe and then spend the whole hour unnetworking with attached to one person. So you force yourself to move to 5 different people. And then you'll find after you do the 5, you say, why not 7? Why not 10? And it's actually a physical block that, if you force yourself to move, then you learn to move, and then all of a sudden it becomes easy.
Wow. So, okay. So you finally, you made the approach to the person. Now, how to get out from that person? What do you say to close that conversation and give an opportunity to move on to somebody else?
I say to them, I'm sure you're going to be, you came here to talk to many people, so I'll let you go.
Wow.
You give it to them, so you're not leaving them. You're giving them the opportunity, because everybody came there to network. And so you break away gently and say, I'm sure you want to you want to mingle. And that way it's very gracious, and people enjoy it. It's kind of fun, actually, once you start doing it.
Wow. So how long this conversation you expect to be? If it maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes?
Well, it depends on how matched up you are. If you're a small business consultant and you end up with a corporate type, there's no match there. So I would keep that to 3-4 minutes or less. And what you do there is try to find some common ground, or even get some advice, like what's their biggest business challenge. We all love to know what other people are facing. So that conversation could be very limited if you know there's no market opportunity. But get enough information so that when you see them again, that you at least have some basis to begin that conversation. But I wouldn't stay 10, 15 minutes with a person unless there's a really good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Either personally, if your kids go to the same high school or something, that's completely different. You can go off on a personal chat if you so choose. But for complete strangers, I wouldn't stay. I would think, 5 to 6 minutes is really enough to explore if there's something going on there. And if there's more, then you can stay, much, much longer. But the idea is still to meet at least 5 people, I think, would be a good, successful networking event. If you really click, then what you do is you say, I really am interested in what you're doing. Can we meet outside of this venue? And that way you encourage them to meet with you outside the event. You don't want to take up the whole event talking with one person.
Okay. So, we think of networking as almost like speed dating. And you have to get you're trying to get this persona of who you are. You're a representative of yourself and put yourself in the best light. And you go from one person to the other person to the other person. Mentally and physically, how should you present yourself? Should you be dressed up, or you match the occasion? If they're in jeans, you're in jeans, or you dress one step above physically?
I always recommend dressing one step above.
Okay.
The first impressions really do count, no matter how much all of us despise that notion that what we look like is really important. It really is important. We all make snap judgments. So I would dress one step up. You can wear jeans, but a nice blue shirt or something, a nice crisp blue shirt looks really nice. Whatever's going on. So you can wear khakis with a nice shirt. And then different occasions, you go up to the blazer and up to that. And then women, it's very difficult for women because the range of appropriate attire is almost infinite. But for guys, you really kind of know, and it's almost like the sneaker test. Is anybody going to really be there in sneakers? And if you want to make sure that you've got some nice shoes or something on that to actually give yourself some credibility. If you're providing business services, then most other business people will do that. Unless you're like super, super technical. If you're IT, it doesn't matter. Then they just really want to know if you're like an SEO
skill
or really a web guru. They just want to hear what you've done and who you've done it for, and that. So it doesn't actually matter. When you're that technically in high demand, and most of those things, it matters not. But most of us aren't. So just to look nice and clean and be pleasant and open. I think the philosophy is just have an open head, an open heart, where you just want to learn about the other people. If you go in trying to tell everybody what you do, that's a busted networking event. What you want to do is learn what everyone else is doing.
Wow, that's some great advice. I attended you don't know. A few months ago, I attended the South by Southwest conference. It was a kickoff. Actually, I was going there for Startup America for Texas and Austin. And I mean, you had the whole gamut there. But it's not the type of occasion. And all of this for the whole week is networking. But you had the person, it seemed like the rougher the person was within the computer science world is the person that was the most extreme and the most talented, everybody they want to meet. You can kind of tell the person that was the well-groomed, the clean-up person, they figured that's the person that they didn't necessarily want to meet because they're not really working. So I guess they feel like you got to look like the hippie that you're going to be, you're top of your field. I guess it's just brilliance just pouring out of you. But if you real conservatively dressed, it seemed like the vibe in the room was totally different.
Well, for the techie exception, that's why I put in the techie exception. The guru programmers and some of the networking geniuses, it matters not what they look like. And a lot of times their reputation precedes them. So you want to meet them before you even see them physically. So, but I would just caution that not all of us are in that genre, that 99% of us are just regular vanilla business people, and that our image really does matter, and our manner and our graciousness and our just ability to listen and our willingness to help. And that's it. The intention of service, that's how you go into a networking event and really come out of there. And so you could set a goal. I want to meet X people, and I want to find out this number of this piece of information about each one of them. And I do it as a goal getter. I go in and say, okay, what's the biggest challenge, that you have right now? And another great question is, when you meet a goal, what was it that was working? And then people really light up because you're talking about their accomplishment. And so I find really good research, and I'm writing an ebook, and I'm writing all sorts of CDs and products that I really am doing live research in the networking events. And everyone can do that in their own business niche. Make it a research project.
What do you do with the butterflies in these particular events? I mean, you go into a top executive, a buyer, and you have butterflies. What do you take? Or can you take deep breaths? Or alcohol is not the best thing to do when you're nervous, even at networking events. You should kind of need to stay with water or something. But what advice do you give them to handle these butterflies?
Well, I would start right outside the event. Just really do take 5 really deep breaths and put the intention that you are going to figure out what these people are doing, that it's all about them. And when you put the focus on them and come up with 2 or 3 scripted questions that you could, ask without sounding very corny or canned. And everybody, what's your biggest challenge in business? It's so simple that you could ask any person that question. And so if you know what you're going to say, and if you've mentally prepared, and you're really ready to listen to what they have to say, then I think you're going to have a really good event. Whenever we get butterflies, whenever we're nervous, we're focusing too much on ourselves and our performance. When you focus on the other person, a lot of that goes away. And give it a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Wow. When you talk about we talked about, I think, some goals at the very beginning, but what are 3 myths about goal setting for businesses? The 3 common myths.
Oh, well, there's probably 100, but I'm the 3 that I'll talk about today. No, I just keep collecting. It's so much fun because the goals are just a total mess out there in the literature. The first myth that I like to talk about is if it sounds good, it's got to be a good goal. And you hear goals like, I want to increase profits, I want to increase sales, I want to do. Well, that's not a good goal. It's just not specific. It's not concrete. It just doesn't make any sense. Increasing profits sounds great, but you can't execute it. The other myth that I really encounter a lot is needs versus goals. Like, you need to pay your employees. You need to do different things. Those aren't goals. Those are requirements. And if we mix up goals with requirements, then we kind of get into this to-do list mentality. Your goal should be aspirational. So you should really be something that you reach. And don't make it a to-do list of the things that you've got to do anyway. And then one of the third biggest myths I find that people get really frustrated is that they think that goals shouldn't change. If you say you're going to do something and then, you pound and pound on it and it's not working, you have to just keep on doing it. And that's not true because maybe your business has changed, maybe something's changed, maybe other things have higher priorities. You can restructure your goals. You can reframe them. You can reframe the timelines. You can add additional resources. You can do all sorts of things. So don't go into a goal thinking that absolutely can't change. So those are the three myths I'm talking about now.
Okay. And are our business goals important to reach?
No, not exactly. Every goal has a different level. What we're trying to do is each week, I try to take things in groups of weeks or months. What is it that's the most important thing I can do this week, and what's the most important thing I can do this month? So you wrap that around, and as it lies in with your business strategy, where should I spend my time? So all of us have dozens and dozens of goals. And if that goal keeps falling below the top 20 and it never seems to come up to the top, then maybe we should rethink that goal. Maybe we have too many goals. I try to take a look at what's important this week and what's important this month. And then if I do this month, is at the end of the year, am I going to meet my strategic vision and my strategic goals? So we really want to step outside ourselves and explore what we're doing. And just, I guess my caution is get out of the busyness and the clutter and the to-do list and really do some strategic planning for your business. At least spend, an hour or two each week stepping back from the details to figure out where you're going with this business and who should you be meeting and who should you be talking to. And that's, especially as solopreneurs and small businesses, we spend a lot of time working in the business, not on the business.
Okay. And what's the number one reason that business don't really stay on track on the goals?
Too many goals. They don't resource them well, and they add goals on top of goals without eliminating or prioritizing. And we've all done this. We start with the New Year's resolutions and everything else about all the things we're going to achieve, but we never really think the plan through as to who's going to do it and what the resources are doing on top of all the other things we're doing. And I think that's one of the major blockages in goals is that when you go to a conference for 3 days and you walk out of there with, I'm going to do these 4 things, but you're not integrated in your life. And when you get back from the workshop back into your home, those 4 goals have to fit into the other 100. And that's why we have this workshop euphoria. When you remove yourself from your environment, you're in heaven and you can do anything. But then you get back into your regular environment and reality takes over. So I caution people just to be really careful about laying their goals inside their real life and reallocating and prioritizing that way and not cluttering it up with too many goals.
Okay. How do you recover from a bad goal?
Well, I'm from a consulting background, and with Booz Allen and PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting, we had these great brainstorming sessions after projects that either went well or didn't go well. And without the blaming, without any, remorse, we try to figure out where the lessons are. What did we do well? What did we anticipate? What did we not anticipate? So I would like to go in with an inquisitive mind and try to pull out the lessons. And then if that goal is still important, I would reshape it and start all over with a new date and a new plan and kick it off again with a slightly varied strategy. So there's ways to recover, but the blame game is just a dead end. And I would not encourage any business owner to beat themselves up or whatever. It's just not good behavior. It doesn't get you where you need to get. So grab the lesson and go.
Okay. And what does abandoning a goal do for the goal setter?
Well, if you have too many goals and they start falling away, it starts actually chipping at your own self-image of the entrepreneur spirit. What you came to do, you can do anything. You can achieve this. You can do this. And if you have too many goals and they just start drifting down, it's very demoralizing. And as things hit you in waves, it begins to really shatter your self-confidence. So you can lose momentum. And a lot of this can be avoided if we just declutter those goals in the first place. So I only like to abandon a goal as a strategic decision. That goal no longer fits me. But most of the time, that's not the case. It's still a goal that we would like to do. And as we abandon, it's like losing weight or quitting smoking, all these goals that just go on forever, it really erodes your confidence and your momentum. So I try to coach around that and get out of it, because if we learn something, we can move and reshape that goal and, reach it in a different manner.
Okay. When is really time to give up a goal? it's just not working for you. It's taking too long. What is the time to let it go?
Well, from a business perspective, I would say if it's no longer fits within your strategic priorities. If you thought you were going to kick off a new product or a new book or write an audio series or kick off some new service, and it's just kind of this, I want to do this, and you never get around to it, and there hasn't been demand, you have to question whether that was a good, viable goal. If the goal doesn't make any sense, then just make a conscious decision that you're going to put this goal to bed, or at least, put it off into a parking lot and say, okay, maybe next March or something, I will re-explore if this goal is it. But I would consciously make the decision that it's not working, it's not important anymore, and it doesn't fit in my hierarchy. And that gives you a sense of satisfaction and control that you're dismissing this goal. You're not abandoning it in a bad sense. You're dismissing it, saying, no, it doesn't matter anymore. And that's a good feeling.
Okay. And how can you meet the goal every single time?
Well, by setting the right goal is it something that's within your power? Is it something it's possible? Is it something that, you can really resource and do it? So first you set a good goal, and then you think about what obstacles might be in the way and how you might overcome them. And you continually monitor and track all your interim results, and you apply different resources. So if you really manage that goal, you can meet that goal. And it might take on a different shape, but that's perfectly okay. So that's the way to do it, is the goal is alive and you have a dynamic response to that goal.
And how are business people energized and goal-getting groups? So do they have goal-getting groups?
Yes, I've started them in D.C. now, and my goal is to take them regional and national later. But I have two different business groups that I do on Meetup, and I assemble local goal-getters, and we bring our goals into the group, and we share what we've done well, what we need help on, and what techniques and strategies we do. So sharing your goal experience with other business owners in goal-getter groups is really a really key way to... You'll find that people are like you, that they're having the same issues, and it also, you learn quite a bit. So we're just having a blast with it here in D.C.
So with your goal-getter group in D.C., do they meet on a regular basis, or what is it called, and how people can join?
Well, it's a personal meetup, and then I think I'm going to add a webinar every other month or every 2 weeks. Right now we meet monthly. Everybody's really busy, so we want to make sure that it's something you look forward to. So it's once a month. And then now that seems too far, so we're going to try to introduce a webinar in the 2 weeks between the meetings so that we can really begin to interact more. Because I think the level of support is what's really important, because everybody leaves energized, and then if you come back a month later, some of the momentum's gone. So we'll see if a 2-weekly webinar in the middle of there is really going to work. So I'm going to start that. I'm going to kick off a webinar on June 13th. And because it's a webinar, anybody can join from anywhere.
Okay, great. And regarding the mentors, you don't have the goal-getter groups in your particular town or city. So you just gravitate to a mentor to kind of help you stay on goal?
Well, sure. There's all sorts of coaches and consultants and people ahead of you in business. So, there's resources everywhere, and I'd be happy to work with anyone. They can come to my website. They can come into our group. But just find a person that has the right energy, find a person that's ahead of you, and find a person that's positive. We really don't want to spend any time with people telling us what we can't do and what's not possible. But no, I'm sure there's mentors all around us. So find someone in your local community or come join us, on our webinars that are virtual. So there's resources everywhere. So everybody should go out and find something to help them keep on goal.
And lastly, regarding how does this play a part when you do your business plan and you write your goals? Are they really interchangeable, or how do you actually work your goal within your business plan?
Well, I think the business plan is the overarching architecture, and that's important about lots of other things. But your goals go into the business plan, and I break them down into a couple different levels, like strategic goals, like which target markets and what levels of penetration. So the strategic goals, and then the tactical goals, what I need to do in there. So the business plan is the architecture. We lay out the vision at the top, strategy in the middle, and then tactical goals in place. And the key piece of all of this is resources. We map our resources to those goals at all the levels, and then we set the timelines. Because if you don't have or financing. So you either have the resources yourself, and that's either time or money. And if you don't have enough, then you adjust the timing on those goals. And I think that's one of the fatal problems is, I'm going to triple my business in 2012. Well, what resources are you going to apply to that? And then that's when you begin to assess the validity and the possibility of achieving your goal by crucially looking at those resources.
Okay. Any last words you'd like to leave us with, comments?
Well, I guess what I would just like to encourage all business people that this is a tremendous opportunity to be growing businesses. And there are people buying products and services like crazy every day. So there's demand out there. You can find that demand and align your business with that demand, and you can grow. And it's possible for anyone to do that. So just be careful that you're externally focused and serving market needs, and you're going to go gangbusters. And just keep track of those goals, and good luck to everyone.
Wow. So how can we contact you?
Well, my website is achieveyourgoaleverytime.com, and my nickname is the Goal Goddess. We have a lot of fun with that. And, yeah, it's just cute. And so there's all sorts of things, and I'm developing all sorts of products and services right now, but they're kind of all in development. And I would like to, maybe I can send you a link, but I am hosting a webinar on June 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'll send you that link. And we're going to talk about 8 dimensions of goals, all the way from goal setting to resources to commitment to anticipating obstacles to overcoming obstacles. And there'll be a section on what happens when we achieve our goals, what was lined up, and what's happening when we're not achieving our goals. And there's a really nice contrast where you can see the gap, because we've all met goals and we've all not met goals. But to do the analysis of what's going on and what the difference is, it's really a cool lesson.
Wow. And your website address one more time and telephone number there?
achieveyourgoaleverytime.com. And the phone number is 301-312-7111.
Achieve your goal every time. Well, Donna Marie Thompson, thank you for joining the program. The Goal Goddess of all entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Oh, thank you, Tim. I had really a wonderful time.
Same here. And I look forward in listening to your webinar on June 13th, right?
Great. I'll send you the link. Great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Again, it's another production of The Core Business Show. I'm Tim Jacquet, your host. You can download this episode on iTunes or Blog Talk Radio. I will have some outlines of this particular show on blog.apple Capital Group. You can take a look at that. We do ask you, if you go into iTunes, please write a review on the show. We just want to kind of measure if we're getting a lot of listens across the board, a lot of live listens and a lot of archive listens. I mean, people listen after the show at a certain period of time, and we're really growing. So kind of give us some comments if you don't mind. Tell us how these shows are going for you, if it's meeting your needs. Put those in iTunes. Clickers in. I'm not sure if you're using Sketcher or Stitcher or Pod Pickle or whatever, but write that down so we know if these shows are working for you. Thank you for listening to the program, and everybody have a great day. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet. For more information about equipment financing and asset-based loans, visit our website, applecapitalgroup.com. That's applecapitalgroup.com. Or call us at 866-611-7457. We hope you'll join us for our next episode. And remember, you can always get to the core via iTunes. You'll find all our previous episodes there. And thanks again for listening to the Core Business Show with Tim Jacquet.